Hello and welcome to Sportingways.com. My name's Thomas Rooney and once again I'm joined by Joe Rooney. And this week we're looking ahead to the Euro 2012 quarter-finals. We obviously know now sort of the 8 teams that have qualified, and we'll be looking ahead to each game which take place on Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, giving a prediction for each and then also having a little word or two on each team, and then eventually who we think is going to be the teams that are going to go through to the final four. So it's going to be very competitive. It's been a fantastic tournament so far. We hope it continues to get better. So we'll get underway with Czech Republic versus Portugal, which takes place on Thursday. We'll talk about Czech Republic to begin with, and what a turnaround for them. It's been, it's hard to believe really that we're talking about them in the quarterfinals because they lost their first game 4-1 to Russia, and at that point they were written off. But in the end, they won their next 2 games and topped the group. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean you've got to hand it to them, haven't you? Me and you personally said that they looked awful and didn't really give them much of a chance from progressing from the group. And you've got to hand it to them. They've done really well. They've won 2 games and they're not to be taken lightly at all in this game.
Do you think in a way sort of the first games almost helped them because they obviously lost 4-1 to Russia, and then the pressure was almost off, and then you thought, well, let's just go out there and play because A, we've got to win both games to progress, and B, maybe it can't get any worse.
Yeah, I think opposition might have their opponents might have taken them a bit lightly as well. I think they might have distracted them a little bit, and yeah, it's just credit to them for how they bounced back, and they played some good stuff, and they were impressive. They were good. And
probably for Russia as well, sort of winning that first game 4-1 maybe didn't help them.
Yeah, I think so.
Because at that point we thought they were contenders, but it wasn't to be, and that's been part of sort of how good a tournament this has been so far. And Portugal, obviously their turnaround hasn't been talked about quite as much as Czech Republic, because obviously Portugal are a very good team, but I think you need to talk about it in sort of the same sort of breath, because they lost their first game, albeit narrowly to Germany, then to come back and beat sort of 2, straight beat Denmark 3-2, and then to beat Holland in the final game to sort of confirm their place. I mean, all credit to them, and they can go very far now. Yeah,
very, very impressed with Portugal in the end. I didn't think they were great against Germany, and I didn't think they qualified from the groups. It was such a tough group, but same again, to go and win 2 games in the group stages is very hard to do, and they've done very well to do it. And I think they're big contenders for the tournament.
And obviously we can't talk about Portugal without talking about Cristiano Ronaldo, because he is their standout player, and he came to the fore in that final game, and he's got a couple of goals now, and you just wonder whether he's the sort of player who scores a couple, and the next few games he could get a few more. So he's the key again, but they'll be very pleased that he got a couple of goals, won't they?
Yeah, I mean we always said, didn't we, if Portugal are going to do well in this tournament, Ronaldo's got to perform, and that's what happened. Against Holland, who are a very good side. And he scored 2, they win the game. That's going to be what happens, I think. Ronaldo is just their main man, there's no doubt about it.
Okay, so we're going for a prediction on this one. It's Czech Republic versus Portugal. And I actually think it's going to be a bit of a shock. I think it's going to be a very tight game between 2. I think they're relatively evenly matched in terms of the tournament they've had and the confidence they're in. They've got a couple of star players each. But I think Czech Republic will win this one on penalties. I think it's going to go all the way. I'm going for 1-1 after extra time, and then Czech Republic to win on penalties.
Yeah, I'm going to go for a slightly different result here. I think Portugal have found a bit of momentum at the right time. They're playing some good stuff. I think Ronaldo's coming to form at the perfect time for them, and I think they'll win this inside 90 minutes, and I think they'll win it 2-1.
Okay, next up we've got Friday's quarter-final. It's Germany versus Greece. Obviously another big game in Euro 2012 in the second quarter-final. We'll talk about Germany to begin with, because obviously there's a lot to say about Greece and the fact that they're even in the quarter-finals. We'll talk about Germany to begin with. They're now the favourites for the tournament after being the only team that won all 3 of their group games. Yeah. Rightly so, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they won all their games in qualifying for the tournament as well. So, when the pressure's on them, they do it. They've got players with tournament experience, but just coming into their peak, and they're the side to beat. I think they're the best team in this tournament.
A lot of their players like Podolski and Schweinsteiger, and you presume they're 30. Yeah. They're 26, 27, which is
that's the thing.
Incredible. It just shows other nations maybe that if you trust some younger players and get them in the major tournaments, you might not benefit out the first time, but come the second or third major tournament, they're going to come to the fore, and that's what's happened.
Well, yeah, they've been, in the last sort of 3 major tournaments, they've been very close, haven't they? And that would have been with those youngsters that kind of maybe were overwhelmed by the big occasion.
This is the time.
But this time, they've had their experience, and they play some lovely football as well. And they just seem to have the perfect balance in their side. And I can only see them getting better, to be honest.
Obviously, Mario Gomez has sort of stole the headlines with 3 well-taken goals, but there's been some other sort of players as well. I think Schweinsteiger, as you mentioned, them, and sort of been involved in a lot of stuff they've done going forward. And they've got other players coming to the fore as well. I think Ozil needs to come in a bit more, and that can only benefit them because they've got so many options going forward.
Definitely, that's the thing, isn't it? If a couple of players, you can always afford them not to be at their best because you know a couple of the others will. And I think, just going back to Gomez, I think he's really shown he's one of the best strikers around at the minute. He hasn't really done much in terms of bringing people into the game and stuff, but he's given that chance and he takes his chances. That's what he does.
Okay, and we'll talk about Greece now. And Greece are in the quarterfinals. Discuss.
I can't quite believe it, to be honest. I mean, they were okay, weren't they, in their first game? And their second game they put in against Czech Republic, they put in one of the worst performances I've ever seen.
Certainly first half.
And they looked one of the worst sides in the tournament. But then somehow they go and beat Russia and qualify for the quarterfinals, and it's amazing, really. But you can't write them off now. You really can't.
So they'll be looking just for 1-0 victories now, won't they? Yeah. Sort of that'll be the pattern now. I think stay solid at the back, and we might get a goal. So they've got a couple of capable players going forward, but obviously. Euro 2008 or 2004, sorry, which ones did they won? 2004. 2004. They won the whole thing, but surely that can't happen again, even though they'll be pleased to get this far.
Yeah, you wouldn't think it could.
Surely it can't happen again.
It can't, surely. But, although it's obviously a different brand of players from 8 years ago, they're going to have that. They know that it can happen, it's possible.
Why not?
They can do it. And, why not? And they know they're going to have to beat the best sides in the competition, and it couldn't get any tougher for them here, but win this, and then they're massive contenders.
Okay, on that note, we'll go for a prediction on this one. It's Germany versus Greece on Friday evening. And I just can't see it happening for Greece in this one. I think Germany are too good. I think Germany are almost like a top order sort of a successful cricket team, because you need a couple of them to shine and you'll do all right. And I think that's what happens with Germany with their front six. So I think a couple of German players will be on their form, and that'll be too much for Greece. So I'm going for 2-0 to Germany in normal time.
Yeah, I actually think this could be the end of the road for Greece, and I think Germany could really turn on the style here. I'm actually going to go for a 4-0 victory for Germany.
Okay, next up we've got the third quarter-final taking place on Saturday evening. It's Spain versus France, two European giants going head-to-head for a place in the semi-finals, and we'll talk about Spain to begin with. They've received a bit of criticism this tournament for their performances, not been quite at their best, but they've qualified relatively comfortably in the end. And do you think it's just the victim of their own high standards and the fact that people are criticising them?
Yeah, I think so, but I actually think I think they've been good, to be honest. I think they play fantastic football, but it just hasn't flowed as much as they'd like it to, and they haven't been quite clinical enough in front of goal. But they're another team I can only really see getting better, and just their big name players just doing it on the bigger stage.
It's kind of like the major tournaments they won before. They lost the first game in the 2010 World Cup, and they then go from strength to strength. You don't want your best form in the group stages, do you? You want to just progress, and then quarterfinals, semi-finals, final is where you really turn on the style. Yeah,
definitely. And let's not forget what a tough group that was as well. They were in. I mean, I feel sorry for Croatia not qualifying, because I think they were brilliant throughout the tournament, and they had Italy as well, didn't they? So it was a very tough group, and to come out of that, still unbeaten, top of the group, they've got to be happy.
In terms of their team, would you lead the line with Torres again? Would you go with sort of like they did in the first game, not have an outside striker, or would you have a bit of a wild card because he hasn't really played yet? Llorente, what would you go for?
Yeah, I was going for Llorente. I think it's been harsh not to get a chance. He's had a much better season than Torres. He's full of confidence, although that might be shot a bit now because he hasn't played at all. But he was scoring goals. He's a brilliant player, and I think he'd be perfect to lead the line for them. But I don't know. Del Bosque obviously likes, just with that much attack and that much quality in midfield. He just wants them all to play. Obviously,
we'll see. And obviously he's been very successful with them, so we'll trust his judgment on that. And they've definitely got a lot of quality, whoever he picks. And the same goes for France. We'll talk about them now. Obviously, they qualified second in England's group after they lost to Sweden.
Yeah.
Can we read too much into that defeat, or is it just a case of Sweden played with quite a bit of freedom? They've got striker who's on the top of his game at the moment in Ibrahimovic, or what do we put that down to? The France losing that game.
I think you do read quite a lot into it, because it wasn't as though the pressure was off them in this game. Although it would have taken a sort of different turn of events.
Yeah, shouldn't they just thought we are basically qualified, and that maybe affected their performance?
Yeah, I think so. But you want to win the group to get yourself the so-called easier tie against a team that hasn't topped their group. And with the pressure really on them in that game, they didn't deliver, and that could be massive for them, I think.
And coming second in the group does, obviously they're now playing Spain, who won the World Cup and the European Championships. Obviously is going for their third major tournament in a row, and also they got haven't got enough extra days rest, which England have got. So
exactly.
Losing that one is big, and they didn't score a goal. There's been a bit worrying how many goals they got. They got not too many, have they? No. They just wonder whether they're a bit too passing it around about their clinicalness. So maybe that could cost them in the end. Or do you think that maybe sort of likes of Benzema and that might come to the fore and get a couple of goals.
Yeah, you'd expect them to come to the fore because they're overdue. But I mean, it's the first game they'd lost since 2010 as well, which I think is big for them because they'd have been proud of that record and sort of priding themselves on it. Look, no one's going to beat us, and then to lose against a team that are already out of the competition, no matter if they're playing with the pressure off or anything. So they haven't been good enough to qualify, but they beat France, and I think that's a big statement.
Okay, so we'll go for prediction on this one. I actually think it's going to be France that progress. I've got a feeling that Spain, this might not be the end of the road for this team. Of course not. They're still extremely talented and got some very good young players, but I can't see them going all the way again. And I think they'll actually come unstuck against the France side, who will put in their best performance of the tournament. So I'm going for 2-1 to the French in normal time.
Yeah, I think it's going to be quite a tight affair, and I don't actually see any goals after 90 minutes.
Right.
But I think Spain's sort of players with the know-how to do it in extra time. I think someone like Iniesta might pop up and score again, and I think they're going to win it 1-0 in extra time.
Okay, the final quarter-final to look at is England versus Italy. It's a quarter-final that we're all looking forward to as England fans. Kind of Euro 2012, it's definitely captured the imagination of sort of the English public at the moment, and it's a massive game in the fourth quarter-final, so really one to look forward to. And we'll talk about England to begin with. And obviously against Ukraine in the last game, the first half was poor. Second half came back into it, got the goal we needed. Steven Gerrard was very good, and John Terry at the back. Overall, you've got to be happy with Roy Hodgson's England?
Yeah, very happy with it, I think. And, like you say, the first half was poor, but to go in, drawing at half-time is good because it means that, you're playing poor, but you're not losing games. And then to get the goal when we did with Rooney just after half-time, I think was vital. I think Rooney now has a massive part to play in this tournament for England. Okay,
and obviously any other standout performers? I mentioned Steven Gerrard there. I think he's relished being captain, and then also sort of John Terry at the back, and him and Les Scott generally have been superb so far, haven't they? And been the basis of what England have done well under Roy Hodgson.
Yeah, definitely. I think Terry's been absolutely brilliant at the back. I think he's almost enjoyed the pressure off him a little bit, not with the captain's armband or any real controversy really hanging over him too much. I think Ashley Cole, as ever, has been fantastic. I think he's one of the best left backs in the world.
It goes without saying that he's going to be good.
And he's just always good in these major tournaments. He's just so reliable. And I think Glenn Johnson, the other side of him, has been decent as well. The odd mistake here and there, but he's got some vital challenges and looks decent going forward, I think. Okay,
basically we're the best team in the world. That's the conclusion on that one. Italy, they've obviously qualified in the kind of the Italian way, you would say. Really, kind of, they haven't been fantastic. They haven't scored loads of goals. They've got the job done and progressed from a reasonably tough group, and they'll come through it and they'll feel they can go from strength to strength, and they're definitely a dangerous side, aren't they?
Oh yeah, they're a team to watch, definitely. I mean, they still have sort of kept their roots of their defensive play, but I think under Claudio Prandelli, I think they're a more exciting team to watch. They like to get forward more, and the likes of Pirlo in midfield, who I think has been one of the players of the tournament so far. He really makes them tick, and he brings other players into the game. And he's lethal from set pieces as well. He scored a fantastic free kick in the group stage.
Do you think with Pirlo, if he's obviously the one that makes them tick, do you think someone like Scott Parker will just be all over him like a rash? And that might be England's approach with that one. Just give him no time on the ball whatsoever.
Yeah, I think Scott Parker's the man for him. I really do. I think he's got to stay shirt tied to him all the time. And I think hopefully he'll end up hating Scott Parker by the end of it. And I think another interesting little battle, if he starts, will be Balotelli and Les Scott, obviously teammates, and both know each other's strengths and weaknesses, so that'll be an interesting one to watch, I think.
And obviously John Terry's played against him as well, and sort of Balotelli took his goal well, didn't he? Credit to him, and he's definitely one to watch for England. So it's going to be a very tough game. That's going to be tight between two good teams, and we'll go for a prediction. And I've said for a while now that I think England are going to make it to the semi-finals, and I still stick by that. And that means I think they'll progress against the Italians this weekend. I think it'll be tight, and I think it'll go all the way, possibly not quite to penalties, but to extra time. And I think England will win 2-1 in extra time after 1-1 in normal time.
Yeah, I'm backing England to do it as well. I think they look decent, and I think the knockout stages are going to suit their style of play. I think it's going to be a typical Hodgson performance again, and it's going to be the Hodgson result that we expect. And I think in the end, inside 90 minutes, England will take the game 1-0.